Welcome. It is episode 10 of Lostlikemike. I am your host, Mike Gonzalez. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining the conversation, the monologue, whichever way you want to see it. 10 episodes. Kind of a interesting learning curve. I'm feeling pretty good about episode 10. We have a great show for you today, and we might have a great show for you today. We might have an awful show. We don't know yet. Why am I saying we've? Thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Thank you for hanging out on the comment section. Thank you for emailing me at Lostlikemike. Several spam emails recently about joining different podcast channels. So getting my hopes up and things when I see these emails on Lostlikemike at Gmail. Been listening to your podcast. Would you be interested in whatever it is that they have to sell? Anyway, it is episode 10, and I'm in good spirits this week. Mainly because I had a chance to hang out with family this week and talk to really good friends this week, and I'm beginning to find more and more that connections to people and to the world around you is a game changer, and one of which I'd highly recommend if you're feeling down or disconnected. I'm trying to work in some exercise and work in some volunteering to sort of strengthen some of those ties that bind, But yeah, I've been doing this Sunday morning breakfast past couple weeks, and it's been helpful. And conversations with friends. I've realized something this week. I people watch sometimes, and there are really some dumb people out there. I mean, no offense. I'm not trying to just insult people right now. I'm just saying that there's some blissfully ignorant people in the world, and I'm envious of them at times because they seem to be oblivious to everything that's going on in the world, everything that's going on in the community. And they're just having a good old time. And maybe it's a good act, but it's sometimes you could just tell that people don't have a clue, and they're just woohoo, having a great time of it. And I've also seen, as I people watch, some very brilliant people recently, problem solvers, artists, creatives, just working their way through their issues and the world's problems, and they're full of hope and ideas, and I think that if there was such a thing as a sweet spot of intelligence, in a completely opposite of the word sweet spot of intelligence, I think that's where I am. And that's it's a silly realization. I'm too smart to ignore the problems of the world, but not quite bright enough to have anything productive to say about it. Yeah, so I'm in the anti-sweet spot of intelligence. I have to read more. You got to be smart enough not to worry about the problems of the world. You have to be smart enough to know that if you want to change things, that you have to find ways and put it into action. You can't just sit and ponder about it in a sort of Chicken Little sort of way. Yeah, I was trying all day to think of what is the word for it. That sweet spot of intelligence. That middle ground between complete, like just being a vacant, just mush, just not seeing anything in the world is wrong, and being, the geniuses, they're getting the plastic out of the oceans and solving the global warming and making peace on Earth, and yeah. Anyway, whatever that antithesis of a sweet spot is, that's where I'm at. I have a hypothesis, a theory that I'm trying to work on. And I was going to run it by you. I'd like to hear more about it in the comments or whatever, if you find it to be true. But it's a phenomena that I've kind of been sort of thinking about recently. No matter what I do in the mornings to go to work, I have to leave about 45 minutes before, I'm supposed to be there, which is nothing new, no big deal. But my times have been fluctuating over the past couple weeks, maybe, let's say, that I've actually sort of paid attention to, let's say a month and a half of fluctuating times where either I needed to go in early for work, or let's be honest, running late or whatever it is. But I noticed that I have to go on 2 highways to get to work. So there's a first chunk of highway where I fight traffic. This first leg of the trip, this first highway. And then when I get to the second leg of the trip, the second highway, it's smooth sailing, but it's kind of like off to the races because I'm bobbing and weaving, but it's fluid. It's not really stop and go traffic. It's more like pick the right lanes and you're off to the races. But the first half, when that first highway that's pure traffic, I found that if I leave from my house, and I'm trying to determine this window, okay? Because here's the thing. So if I leave half an hour early, 15 minutes early, or leave when I'm supposed to leave, no matter what, when I get to the end of the first leg of the highway, I end up entering the second part of the highway at the same time. I'll let you think about that for a minute. So, for example, if I leave at 6:50 in the morning, or if I leave at 7 or 7:15, I end up at the same spot, right? So if I leave, one time I left really early and there was like an accident on the highway, and I end up at the second part of the highway at the same time. Kind of got me started on this whole trip of that's crazy, that shouldn't be that way, blah blah blah. But either I catch all red lights to get to the highway and then fight through a reasonable amount of traffic. Or I catch nothing but green lights and then it's stop and go traffic all the way to the second highway. It's the most insane thing. Because I've kind of been like, well, I'm barely getting to work on time. I really should try to leave 15 minutes earlier. And then I'm still at the second highway at the same time. It just doesn't even matter. But there's got to be a way to test this without chancing it all the time and getting to work late. But I'm trying to figure that out. Hear this? I don't know if you can hear that. If you're just listening to the podcast, my watch is buzzing because for some reason it wants to communicate. I would put my phone on silent so it wouldn't ring with text messages or, God forbid, phone calls. But my iPad and everything's all connected in this weird universe. And so I apologize for the buzzing. I should take it off. I was thinking about correlation versus causation. It's where unrelated things that you sort of, the example that they use is a phone, has to do with a phone. I'm not going to get into it. Basically, the phone didn't have enough RAM, and they were having trouble with the messages, and I don't know, what is it, battery life? Ugh, I'm not going to look it up right now. Probably edit that part out anyway. So anyway, I've determined that women that have a particular hairstyle don't like me. I only have anecdotal evidence of this, but I'm pretty sure. I won't go so far as to describe the hairstyle, other than to say that it's a shorter hairstyle, but it's curly. Okay, anyway. I had a couple instances the other day where it sort of solidified my opinion on this matter. And I'm saying, so maybe it's not, maybe there's it's more of a correlation and not the hairstyle being the causation. Anyway, let's go first to me getting a haircut, okay? First of all, if you've ever gone to a Great Clips or to Sports Clips or any of that type of haircut establishment, right, where you can kind of make an appointment to go there, but not necessarily who you're going to see when you get there, right? Just sort of with the app or with whatever you sign up and you say, I'll be there, and this is where you're going to have a 30-minute wait or 20-minute wait, whatever, and they'll call your name out. And sort of, basically what I'm saying is it's a crapshoot if anybody has ever gone to these. Sometimes the hairdresser or hair barber, hairstylist, whatever you call it, is fantastic. They're awesome. And sometimes not so fantastic, not so awesome. It's a crapshoot. It's, I could tell you this, like this one time, I show up at the same time as this other guy. I had signed up ahead, so I knew that I was going to go first, right? But I already had a plan B in mind because there was a guy And don't get me wrong, some of the best barbers in the known universe are men. Some of the best hairstylists are men. Was not a deal breaker. Okay? And it wasn't because he kind of looked like Napoleon Dynamite's brother in the movie. It wasn't that either. Okay? There was a guy cutting someone's hair, and then over here there was a woman cutting a guy's hair. I've thought about this, and I'm pretty sure. I think the reason why I didn't want to go with the guy was because the look on the lady's face that was sitting in his chair. First, like, she looked like a wet dog. Her hair was all like straight and wet on the sides of her face, and she had little clips holding up chunks of her hair in weird spots. But her face, she looked miserable and upset, like I don't know, just like a long horse face, just real. She looked upset, right? But I later sort of connected that dot. Like, my gut was saying, if he finishes first, and I'm going to play the nice guy card and say, hey fella, you want to go? Hey guy that came in at the same time as me, I'm being a good Samaritan today. You go ahead and go with the Napoleon Dynamite's brother. I'm going to wait for the lady. Because the lady was cutting a guy's hair, and the guy had a fade or whatever. I don't know what you call it, with a, and I was figuring that's kind of closer to where, my hair is going for. I want the lady. So I willed it, like, no whammy. Give me the lady. So in the middle of my cut, I ended up getting the lady. Spoiler alert. I go to the lady's chair. She's cutting my hair. In the middle of my cut, the fella flags her down to come help him with the lady's haircut, who was still sitting in the guy's chair. Turns out that he had cut a large chunk of the lady's hair by accident. That was, I think, in one of the clips, because it ended up going from a trim to taking off half the length of her hair. And she was just silently fuming, like, no reaction, other than, I think I heard her mumble something about, I'm not paying for this, and storming out like she didn't, like, I can't remember if she was still wearing the cape or not, but I just remember that I was sitting there going, dude, I'm like all dressed up and nowhere to go. Like, is this lady ever coming back to me? Because I don't want the guy to come try to finish my haircut. So anyway, crapshoot. So sometimes you get somebody that's no good, so you kind of got to be mindful or be careful. But anyway, I'll go back to my other story. So usually I go out to these haircut places, and I have a haircut budget. Okay, I'm not gonna say how much the haircut costs. I'm not gonna say how much I tip, but the whole thing is that I have a haircut budget, right? And whatever the haircut costs, if they're really good, I give the rest of the budget to them as a tip. I started this habit like a long time ago. And the game is that, like, this one time, the lady was like, hey, go to this website and you get this coupon. Because a lot of times I'll get coupons in the mail or whatever. But this lady was like, hey, go to this website. You get this coupon and it'll bring your haircut down, pretty inexpensive. And I'm just sitting there in the chair. So I'm like, all right, I'll look it up. And I found this website. I get this coupon. And I didn't tell the lady, but I was like, I got this coupon, and then I'm gonna tip you the rest of the haircut budget. I didn't say that. That's a crazy talk, but I just was like, sign the credit card, whatever, debit, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I just gave him the rest in a tip. So, and I don't really care if the company gets the money or the person gets it in the form of a tip. Especially, look, if they do a really good job, like I can tell that they really cared. I tip them obviously more, right? But regardless, even if it's just like whatever's left in the haircut budget, it's still a good tip. I'm not a jerk. I understand, some of that money is from the tip. Okay? So all this is just pretext for the story that I'm about to say. Okay? So take it with a grain of salt because, all right. On this day, I go into the hair place and I see two ladies cutting their respective clients' hair. And one comes up to the front and says, "Did you sign in online or do whatever you did?" And I'm like, "Yes, I did." And they're like, "Okay, well, you're up next. Just have a seat." Okay. So my name gets called, and then I sort of, look up from my phone to go, and I notice that the lady has the hairstyle and has the particular look of a woman that does not like me. This may sound crazy to you, but just bear with me. Okay? So I say in my head, "Oh, great. Here we go. Put on your nice shoes because this lady's not going to like you no matter what you do." So I said, "Okay. Hope my haircut doesn't suck." I go sit in her chair. Okay. So right away, I'm not tripping. She's putting on the gear. I'm trying to be nice. Okay. She keeps stopping to greet people that come in. And twice she goes over to the computer, which, look, I get it. They got to do that. It's okay. It's not okay, but it's okay. Because I understand they're wanting good customer service and want to put people in their spots, whatever. But I realize that I don't remember the website that has the good coupons. So I get my phone out, and she says, "I'm going to need you to keep your head straight." Okay. So then I wasn't conscious of it at that moment. So I said, cool. All right. Keep my head straight. Right? Because I wasn't paying attention prior to that. All right. So I get my phone and I position it in front of myself. So I'm not moving my head at all. Right? I can move my eyes. I can move my fingers. Not going to move my head. I think she notices that I'm looking up coupons, not knowing that I'm going to hook her up with whatever difference I get. But like 2-3 times she says, "Please hold your head straight." I'm like, lady, like, I'm getting a crink in my neck because I'm not moving. I'm so stiff. I'm frozen and I'm so statuesque that I know I'm not moving. Don't, you're like, come on. Anyway, she gets done. She hands me a mirror. Meanwhile, I'm not finding the website. Just putting it out there. Because I'm getting frustrated. But anyway, so she hands me a mirror. I look at the reflection at the back of my head, and I see a patch, a dark patch. Right? Like, hey, you missed a spot. She obviously sees it because she sees my hand go right to it. And she says, no, that's just the shape of your head. And I said, thank you. Like in all my years of living on this planet, nobody's ever showed me the back of my head. I mean, stupid. I know what the back of my head looks like, dude. Like, I'm not, um, this isn't a magic trick. Like, obviously anyway, I mean, she kind of fixed it, whatever, but, and then inevitably I didn't get the coupon, right? But then at that point I was like, whatever, lady, you get the leftover, which was still a good tip, but it's like, I didn't feel bad about not doing the full hookup because, and then, but my point being, or like the big picture is, she didn't like me, okay? As evidenced by her overall attitude towards me. And I don't mind. I've learned a long time ago that not everybody's going to like you. If you don't know that already, odds are somebody don't like you. And in my experience, you'll find plenty of people that don't like you, okay? It's no big deal. I just happen to find that majority of the women that do not like me seem to like a particular hairstyle and look a particular way. And again, this could just be a correlating factor. It's not necessarily something but it's something worth noting, in my mind anyway. Because that same day, right after, as a matter of fact, I went to go do a Target. I hate saying places. I went to Target to do a curbside pickup. Okay? For my wife. And on my way there, she asked if I could pick up a few more items inside. So I said, you were going to cancel the curbside? She said, no. Get your items, go to customer service, ask to do a curbside pickup that doesn't have to go out to the car, and they'll take care of you. You're all good. So I said, okay. I'm going around Target. I pick up a couple items, right? I know how to play the game, so I go to the customer service desk. As I'm approaching, I notice that the girl behind the counter has the hairstyle. And I know she's not going to like me. And as I say it out loud to you tonight, I realize that it sounds ridiculous. But just understand what follows, okay? So I go up to the lady, and I'm very nice. I believe me, I go, the pendulum goes whoop all the way to the other side. When I think somebody's not going to like me, I really throw on the charm thick. Because it's not going to be because I'm a jerk, not this day. It's because you got a problem with this face. It's not because I'm not nice to you, okay? Let's just put that out there. So I went up and I very respectfully and very nicely said, hello, ma'am. I have a curbside pickup that I would like to pick up here. But I would also have these items. I said, I'm picking up a curbside order for my wife. But before I do that, if I may purchase these items that I had to get in addition to those items that she wanted. So as I'm saying that, the lady snaps and interjects again, and she first says, you're going to need to buy those separate right now. Like, you'll need to pay for those first. Which I had just said, if I may pay for these items first. You're going to need to pay for those items first. Okay, cool. All right. Again, I'm still being a super sweetheart. And I said, yes, ma'am, that is fine. So, place the items. I pay for the items. 2-3 items. No big deal. I said, yes, I will pay for these items, and then I'll pick up my wife's curbside pickup. Right. So then she says, is the curbside pickup for you? And this is after I've said it twice that it was for my wife. I said, no, ma'am, it's going to be under my wife's name. The lady says, she first says, I'm going to need to see some ID. And do you have the same last name? And I smile and say, yeah, like, I'm getting my ID out. And then she snaps a couple times. Is the name the same? Is it the same last name? Do y'all share the same last name? And I'm like, wow. I mean, you got me, lady. Like, I was trying to get away with snagging some tampons and pink ankle socks, but if it wasn't for you being on top of your job and you know, I could have gotten away with it. Trying to pull one over on target, but you're too good, obviously. I don't know what it is. Maybe somewhere on that same track that takes them to deciding whether they want to get a particular hairstyle, maybe they were burned by somebody who looked like me. Maybe it was right after they got into a bad relationship with a guy who looked just like me and then said, I know what I need. I need a curly-haired version of Dora the Explorer haircut. Maybe that was what it was. Anyway. Wouldn't it be funny if it was just me being very perceptive and noticing that that was a true thing that people with particular hairstyles or particular looks like made those fashion choices were the same people that had predispositions for likes and dislikes having to do with personality traits that I happen to have? Could be. Most likely not, but it's okay. I don't know. I had a thought the other day. About the quickness of like children growing up. And trying to slow it down. I have a son that's about to graduate from high school. That ought to blow your mind. Blows my mind. But then I have a daughter. There's a big gap. I have a daughter that's just getting started in this whole school thing. And I remember, because I'm not with his mom, but it's funny because their story, their perception of reality is different than mine when it comes to the first day of school. I remember dropping him off. It must have been kindergarten, and I remember it as kindergarten, but they say that I wasn't the first one to drop him off. I maybe was the first one in first grade. Here's why. Because when I dropped him off, I remember getting to the classroom and the teacher, now that I think about it, had that hairstyle. uh, anyway, no. I was standing at the doorway trying to make it okay for him and say, like, have a good day, whatever. And I remember the teacher giving me this real awful look and turning him around, pushing him inside and closing the door on me. And maybe I'm imagining the closing the door part, but at least very physically and with her face, it wasn't like a sweet, like, oh, you're a dad dropping off your son. It was like a very judgmental, like, this is why children have dependencies, like, on their parents. Like, you need to F off. Like, I remember it was very cold, but I remember feeling like it was like a very significant moment. Like, and that's why I think it was like, see, you hear that, right? I'm getting text messages that I'm being loud. But there was, it was a significance to it. So maybe it was first grade, but it was very much me dropping my son off, right? And so graduation's coming up, and hopefully, he's very smart. I'm just saying, you never know with, I'm just being silly. But it goes that fast to me, right? So the other day I was telling my daughter good night and I love you, and I gave her a kiss on the forehead, and then I took a deep breath in, and it was all these kid smells, right? And there's been several instances like that where I'll say hi, or when she comes home from school, and there's all these scents of school, or I don't know if it's like youth and kid sweat, and like, again, when I say it out loud, it seems weird. But really, sometimes you gotta just take those scents in. Like, it's like the olfactory glands. Everything's just the sensory. Like, it takes me to another place. It takes me to a time. It's like writing down something. Smell your kids is what I'm saying. Figure it out, because I'm just putting it out there and I don't know how to say it in any other way. Sometimes you walk out, I'll walk out and I'll take a deep breath of the air out, and when you walk out the first thing in the morning, and it reminds me of getting up early for school, or there's a freshness to the air, or a weird sort of morning dew smell. But sometimes there's these scents that come along with when you smell your kid right after they've been playing around and running around all day, and they carry certain scents. I don't know how to describe it, but it's it had me thinking the other day. I mean, it's just time is unforgiving, and it's so quick. Where I remember so many instances of where my son fit in one half of my arm. I remember him falling asleep in my lap, watching Cars. So many memories, and then the next thing you know, he doesn't want to hold your hand when you're crossing the street anymore. Doesn't really like hugs. It happens pretty quick. So there's a part of me that just is strangely aware of the fleeting nature of time with your kids, because of the dynamic that I've set up with the long gap between the kids, and so now, like today, I had an impromptu, like, asked if we could go to dinner, so I could take my daughter to play in the playground, and if she wants to do dumb things, I'll do them. Which, by the way, if I could find the clip, I'll post it on here or somewhere. Because she had asked me to do a dumb dance, and it was for like TikTok or something. She asked if I would do this dumb dance, and I got real weird about it. Like, I didn't want to do this dumb dance, but I did it. I asked them not to post it anywhere. But I remember her being like, it's cool, I won't post it anywhere. But there was like a slight sense of disappointment. I could sense it even then. So, I don't know where that came from. I remember I took my daughter to a daddy-daughter dance, and I was super willing to go out on the dance floor and do all the goofy dances, and she ended up wanting to play. They had all these balloons everywhere that had these little flashing lights inside the balloons, and she wanted to play volleyball with the balloons and do all this kind of stuff. Like, she wasn't really wanting to do a lot of the dances, but I don't know what possessed me on that particular day not to want to be like goofy, but so it's one of those instant regret things where I kind of want to get a do-over and do the dumb dance and not care if it gets posted. I mean, who cares? It's funny, on my notes it said haircut lady. And I knew what I was talking about. So smell your kids. I keep thinking of stop and smell the roses, but that's not where I'm going with this. I'm just saying, take the time to really live in the moment with the kiddos. If you have kids. If you don't, then just apply it to whatever your significant other, your family. Your friends. I'm trying to sort that out. I would like to have. I love the breakfasts that I'm having with my family, and I want to cultivate that. And I recently started. I binged watched this show on Hulu. It was a show from FX called Better Things. Yeah. And let's see. It was with Pamela Adlon. She created it with Louis C.K. and she wrote a lot of the episodes and directed it. And I was sort of tricked because I don't like watching shows that have. I mean, I don't. How do you put this? I prefer to watch shows that are still going on today, right? I don't like last episodes. I don't like when shows ends. It gets me really nostalgic. It gets me very like melancholy, very sad when I see a show end. I say nostalgic because I start thinking about things that are over, right? The feelings evoke different other feelings, thoughts, etc. But when I saw the show popped up on my feed as whether I want to watch it or not, and I misunderstood it as being, it said 5 seasons, and the last season was like, it was 2021. So I thought, well, 2022, maybe it hasn't, the new episodes haven't come out yet, right? But after watching it, I get the feeling that it was rounded out. It was just done. But tremendous job that she did with the show. It was funny, but it depicted the relationship between her and her daughters in a pretty authentic way, where even in herself, she didn't portray herself as the all the time hero, right? And I had a lot of respect for that, where not only was it self-deprecating humor at times, it's not really like where I was going with it with that, but even I'll give you an example. There was a scene where she's a divorced single mother, and her friend is getting a divorce, and the man walks in, and she begins to treat him like shit, right? She starts, and the guy's like, listen, like what did I do to you? Like, what's your problem with me? And then she says, oh, well, because you're a horrible husband, and because you suck, I don't like you, right? Now, she's writing this story. She's directing the story. She's controlling, executive producer. She's controlling the way that her main character is portrayed in this story. Yeah, it's something that I try to keep in mind, where it's kind of like, all right, well, like your typical sitcom, or I always used to look back at like a little throwback here for those that are a bit older. There's a certain type of character like Golden Girls, where B. Arthur would tell off somebody, and every time she did, it was like you hear the fake audience clap or whatever, because they would portray her as in that moment knowing what to say and saying it perfectly. Like there used to be this show called Designing Women, and I remember there was this one character, and she would just tell off whoever came in the room, you know, usually it was some bad guy or whatever, and she would have the right words to just rip the dude up or whatever. Okay. So the guy says, "Oh, cool, but, you know, did she tell you that she did this to me? Did she tell you that like his example is that she wouldn't go near me for 2 years, and that she wouldn't go get help, and when her mother died and she didn't go get help even though he begged her to go get help." And the guy gets like off a couple of these comebacks, and is like, you have no right to judge my marriage and how I am, and whatever. And then she sort of takes it in, and then, you know, gets off a one-liner like, you know, well, you still suck, or whatever it is, right? But it was very much balanced in that sense, that she allowed herself to come off as flawed in many instances. There's an episode where she's getting a colonoscopy and she spends half the episode on the toilet. And anyway, one of the ways that I knew that it was a good show was that towards the end, I started realizing that I was going to miss catching a glimpse of this family, and seeing this dynamic and whatever. And there were certain aspects of it that were hard to watch, you know what I mean? As far as like, sometimes her daughters were, you know, potty mouthed, or like had a real disrespectful way of talking to her. But again, it's there were certain realistic aspects to that, but also at the same time, like, I mean, in my mind, I'm like, hell no, I'm not going to, you know, allow that sort of talk. But then I think it's sometimes about my son's dynamic with his mother. I don't know if I've talked about that on the podcast before, but it's not really for me to say. But I don't support or endorse I remember saying a bad word in front of my mom one time, quite by accident. And my mom can curse like a sailor. I mean, let's just be honest. But I always felt like it was the sort of respect thing that I couldn't. I've never freely used foul language in front of my mom. So it's almost like where it gives me like pause when I hear somebody else use that kind of language with their parents. But you reap what you sow, and I think that if you're a parent who uses that type of language freely with other adults in front of the child and to the child at times, you know what I'm saying? That's just the bed that you make, and so whatever. But like with my son, I don't. He's already graduated from high school, but even then, he doesn't curse at me. But sometimes he'll say a bad word or whatever, just in natural conversation. In this show, the girls often are disrespectful to the mom, but in a sort of angsty, sort of teenage kind of way. Anyway, I wasn't planning on talking about this show at all, but I watched all 5 seasons, and I was a little bent that it's over. But she did a good job, and I enjoyed it. I'm watching another show on Netflix called In the Dark. It's, I think, the 4th season now. I think it's the 4th season. It says Okay. Yeah, it's in the 4th season right now. It's about a blind individual, a blind woman that tries to solve it's like she's trying to get herself out of trouble, legal trouble, having to do with the first season had to do with she had a friend that lived on the streets and he's killed, and she tries to solve his murder because nobody else will solve the murder or doesn't seem to care enough to want to find the truth. So she's trying to uncover the truth, given her her situation, being that she's blind and was there, she could hear certain things, and anyway, it goes from there. But the story sort of spirals out into all these different things. It's very kind of interesting, and I'm really enjoying this 4th season. But I needed a palate cleansing. I needed something totally different because that was the show I watched was very heavy on the feels side. So I kind of wanted something that was just, I would like something that's just sort of crime solving, and she's a super flawed character too, but in terms of like, she manipulates people, sort of uses people, and just to kind of get what she wants, but she's got sort of a chip on her shoulder and she's sort of bitter. But anyway, I don't know why I'm sharing these TV shows with you right now, but I'm looking for shows to watch. So if you have any suggestions, put them in the comments or email me at lostlikemike@gmail.com, or any topics that you want me to talk about or things that you would find. You can even say something to the extent of, are there any stories having to do with X, Y, or Z? And I'll probably in all my years have had some run-ins with whatever topic, and we'll share whatever stories with you. These conversations are important to me, and the back and forth nature of sort of communicating with you, I know would be tremendously helpful to actually have that interaction go 2 ways. So thank you for listening. That's awesome. Thank you for hanging out. Please do write me an email, drop a comment, tell a friend, and know that it's tremendously important to me and that I'm enjoying this conversation and will continue to do so once a week. And I need the show as much, if not more than you, for sure more than you. That being said, you take care of yourself. See you on the flip side, and look forward to hearing from you in the future. All right, take care of yourselves. Bye.